Delilah D at the library. By Jean Willis. My name is Queen Delilah D. I come from a land far, far away, but my mother likes to keep it a secret. She always says, "But Delilah, darling, you were born here." And no, Delilah, you cannot wear a crown to school. You are not the queen. That's just nonsense. If you don't believe me, ask my brother, Small Boy. But you won't understand the answer because Small Boy only speaks faraway language. And don't ask Daddy because he's busy. This is Gigi, my new sitter. She's supposed to look after me and Small Boy until Mother comes home. She comes from a different faraway land called France. Gigi says, "Come, Delilah, my little cabbage, let's go to the library." Oh, good. I love looking at books and smelling them and shutting them like this, snap, when I get to the end. The library is full of extremely interesting books. Some have pictures, some have words, and this one has a squashed baked bean on page 5. But do you know, things are different in my faraway land where I come from. They always give you free cupcakes at the library. Small Boy is hungry, so I ask Gigi when they will bring the cupcakes, and she says, "What is cupcake?" I am not understanding. Ask that Library Ann. So me and Small Boy go to ask Library Ann, and she says, "No food in here, please." And I say, "Really? Where I come from, everyone eats in the library." A man walks around with a big tray, and he shouts, "Who wants cupcakes? Who wants donuts?" "Shh," says Library Ann. But everybody says, "Ooh, are there cupcakes? Are they free? We want donuts." Now that, says Library Ann, is why we don't shout in the library. I don't know where you come from, young lady, but we have different rules in this library. I tell her I come from a land far, far away. Well, run along and find a nice book about it, she says. So I run along, but Library Ann calls, "No running in the library, please," which is odd because where I come from, everyone runs in the library. Anyway, I try to find a book about the land where I come from, but I can't. Anyone would think there's no such place. Then Small Boy says in faraway language, "Try up there." So I start to climb, but Library Ann says, "My goodness, come down. This is not how we fetch a book." I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I couldn't find the trapeze. Where I come from, there's a trapeze to reach the 2 high books." "Hey, I like the trapeze idea," says Mrs. Willy Hat. "I'm short and I never get to read the 2 high books." Library Ann says, "There are much more sensible ways of reaching books. I will help you find the book properly. Now," she says, "tell me the name of the land where you come from." But I can't, because it's very hard to say. Small Boy tells her in faraway language, but she doesn't understand, so I explain that we come from a tiny island between Jafrica and Smenidia, but Library Ann has never heard of those places. Library Ann opens a big book and says, "There is a map of the world. Can you point to where you come from?" Do you believe it? The person who drew the map forgot to put it on. So I give Library Ann a map I made to show her what the world is really like. And here it is, a map of the land where I come from. You can't read its name because it's under my drawing of a Jafrican smelephant, which is kind of like a Smindian oilephant, only smellier. Where I come from, we have our own animals, our own rules, our own everything. We even have our own song called Hooray for Queen Delilah. I'd love to hear it, said Mrs. Woolly Hat. So I stand on a chair and sing it. Mrs. Woolly Hat joins in. It goes like this. Hooray for Queen Delilah, so beautiful, so brave. Hooray for Queen Delilah, the kingdom she will save. Oh, shout hooray, shout out loud and strong. Hooray for Queen Delilah, Delilah D, who wrote this lovely song. Tra-la. Librarian says, I wish I lived far, far away. Please stop singing. Then she says, would you like to borrow a book before you leave? Where I come from, we don't borrow books and leave. We all bring our blankets and toys, and a beautiful princess reads to us till we fall asleep. Cupcakes, blankets, toys, that's how to run a library, says everyone. There are days, says Librarian, when I wish I was an astronaut. Delilah, darling, says Gigi, I think it's time to say au revoir, and where she comes from, that means goodbye. We go home. I tell my mother about the library. It was extremely fun, and I borrowed a lovely book called Tropical Diseases. But it was nothing like the library in the land where I come from. But Delilah, darling, she says, you come from here. We all do. We don't, though. She's just pretending, silly old thing. Oh, Mommy, I sometimes I think you're living in a world of your own. Yes, I know. I'm holding my library book upside down. Where I come from, that's how everybody reads.